In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a custom title block within Fusion 360 that you can use for your school and have some little bit more automated processes when it comes to students creating drawings. So I'll show you one that I'm going to use for my school. So the one that I have here is I have a few different things. So I have my school logo being placed in the bottom left corner. So I have my student name, and then I have what they call attributes, in which that will automatically populate when the students go through and utilize the drawing file. So actually, they're not going to have to fill out anything because these attributes will automatically populate, and then all they have to do is worry about their drawings and dimensioning and things as such. So I'm going to show you how to go through and create this. So in order to create mine, I'm going to go to a design file, brand new design file, and I'm going to go up here to the file menu, and I'm going to choose a new drawing template. So this one right here is from an ASME template, and I'm going to stick with English units and inches. You can always change that depending on which that you prefer. And then you can either choose a 8.5 by 11, so that'll put it into a regular vertical sheet of paper, and if you do 11 by 8.5, that will put it in a horizontal position, which is typically what we used to seeing. And then you can also have B, C, D, or E size of paper, depending on what's available to you. I have a B size printer at my school, so I'm also able to go through and print B size sheets. So I usually give my students both templates. I'll have two templates that are very similar. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do, most schools will probably have an 11 by 8.5. So to do the horizontal, you choose 11 by 8.5 and say OK. Here's what will end up happening here is the default template. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. This was from, it automatically wants me to kind of start placing an object on the sheet. So when I hover over the title block, it'll highlight. I'm going to right click, and I can left click it to select it, to highlight it in blue. But I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go down here to say edit title block. And what I can do here is it's not going to let me, it's going to automatically have me create a new title block because this is the stock title block that comes in Fusion. So I'm going to go ahead and name this. Maybe we go through and call this IED title block A. And I go ahead and I say OK. Okay, so now here's where I can go through and start editing this. Now usually what I do is I don't really particularly like the ANSI title block. I think it takes up a lot of room on your drawing. So I'm going to click and I'm going to highlight from left to right, and I'm going to go ahead and delete all that title block. So you'll still see the outside edges, the border that you'll have on your paper. So the outside, these little corners, is your paper, but this is the border that goes around the outside edge, and that's how we're going to start drawing. Okay, the one thing is within Fusion is I'm going to take a line, and the line width in this case, so I can go ahead, I'm going to set the line right along the bottom border and go right from the left corner over to the origin, and I'm going to snap to both of those points. Now, since I'm going to have a border there, I really don't need a line, but here's the thing that kind of happens. I'm going to make sure my snap to grid option is selected. I'm showing the border, and I want to have the layout grid just in case. I'm going to use the move tool because we don't have a dimension tool to help us locate where this line is going to be. So I'm going to select the line first. I'm going to go up here to the move dialog and the transform option. I'm going to select that option. I'm going to choose the corner or the end of the line. Either end would work. I'm going to choose the left end, and I'm going to move up, and you'll see that it'll give you a relative polar coordinate. So from the position it was at, how far away is it moving? So here we are at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to go up to 1 inch, and it snaps to the different measurements down to 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose 1 inch. I'm going to click to place it, and that puts my line in there. I'm going to go ahead and right click and say OK. And now that gets the top part of my border that I have there. I'm going to go ahead and choose the line again, and I'm going to go ahead and click. I'm going to do a vertical line, and I'm going to do one on the other side here as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the move tool. I'm going to choose this line. Go ahead and choose the point I want to move it from. This one here I want to allow for 2 inches, so that puts my school logo in there. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to go ahead and run my move tool again, so you'll see move is also M on your keyboard. So getting used to the shortcuts is very helpful as well. I'm going to do 2 inches from this end as well. So equal spacing, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click line. And then right at about the midpoint, or if you want to make sure that you're getting right exactly at 1/2 inch, we can always draw that line in, select it, and then always move it up. Okay, so one thing that I like to do is, as I start to kind of look at some of this as well, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click and I'm going to set a line. And what I'm going to end up doing is, again, I'm going to kind of trace over this line. I'm going to trace over this line as well. And then that way when I run my move command, I'm going to select the line I just drew, transform, and I'm going to move this one 3 inches away. And then that way I can kind of have a little bit of room. This line here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say OK. Move command, transform. And this one I'm going to move about 1.5 inches in here. And this is going to create my information boxes here. I'm going to use the trim tool, and I'm going to trim away this part of the line and this one, so that way I'll have options for my boxes that I have. And then I'm going to get rid of the top part of this line, so that way I'll have this in there. All right, I'm going to right click and say OK. So now we're kind of getting the outside lines of what we're dealing with here. So images, I can always insert an image through this option. It'll bring up, so like here's my Batesville High School logo. I can say open. I can place my image. I kind of like to zoom in pretty close, so because it will snap to the corner. I really don't want it to snap to the corner right now, but I can always go through and do that. I'm going to say OK to place it, and then I can always click on it and resize it how I need to make this kind of work. And then I can always kind of move it around by my mouse cursor as well. So as I kind of get around the outside edges of the image. Okay, so there, that one looks pretty good. Even though you could probably notice my image runs outside of the border a little bit. We'll see how that goes through. And in fact, I may just pull this in just a little bit more. There we go. Again, you'll notice it's not going to fill up. It maintains the aspect ratio of your image. You can go ahead and kind of note that, and then we can always plug in and put in, like here I like to put in the PLTW logo, so that way we know what we're promoting our program, we're promoting our school. It just goes through and helps out a little bit. Okay, and you can always play around with the images and how they kind of sit inside those boxes. But because these are kind of depending on what images you have, the aspect ratios and everything, it's going to maintain those. You're not going to be able to pull, and you wouldn't want to pull these to fit these boxes, because then the image gets a little distorted that way. All right, the next thing that we'll do is we're going to use the text tool. And for example here, the text tool, like I'll put student name and drawing name here at the top. So the text option, I'm going to zoom in here. It will try to snap, and in fact, one thing you may want to do before you run this is uncheck the snap to grid option, so that way it doesn't really try to snap so much. And I can go ahead and set in, and I'm going to draw. So this is the size of the text box, and here I can end up putting, there we go, put in student name, and I can click there and kind of manipulate that. So same thing here. The only thing is you'll notice it snapped to this corner. So that's the only thing sometimes is to me to zoom in and then draw the box and be able to put that in there. Okay, you can change the sizes if you double click on the text, or as you're drawing it, you can always highlight. You always got to highlight your text first, change the size, you can change the justification, put in symbols, bold, anything like that. That's kind of how this works. I'm going to do, just to keep this video concise, I'm going to do just the top ones. Like here I got Introduction to Engineering Design, that's just the text tool, and then I have scale and date in there, and that's just the text tool as well. So I'm just going to go through and show you how to put the attributes in, and then that way we can finish up this drawing. So here you'll end up having, here's the attribute, so place an attribute. So here I'm going to kind of place it somewhat inside of the student name, and here's where I can choose that. So right now over here on my right side, I've got different attributes I can pick from, drawn by, drawn date, all those different options. So I'm going to choose drawn by. I can set what height it is. and the justification, and I can say close. So typical lettering height, minimum lettering height on drawings is 1/8 of an inch, or 0.125. So that's kind of where they're pulling some of those numbers from. Attribute, I can drop this in here. Instead of drawn by, I can go ahead and put in the, I think I have the project name, or actually it's a title, looks like. There we go. So let me double click here. You can always go back, title 1, and that's going to be kind of what we see there, and I can say close. All right, so that's really kind of the process of creating a customized title block. I'm going to say finish title block, and then now you'll see there's your title block there. Now this is a template, so you don't want to go through and put anything on there. So what I would do is go ahead and go up here to File, and then Save, and then it will go through and I would find a location to save your particular file. So let's, you know, here I could name this a size title block, and I can go ahead and hit save. And then what you want to do is once it names, is I'm going to close this out, and in this new one, and I'm going to close out the previous drawing. But to use this, let's say I want to go ahead and I'm just going to create a real basic object here. I'm not even going to worry about constraints or anything. I'm just trying to get a shape here for us. And when I'm done, I do have to hit this shape, which I'll just call test shape, and say save. And then when I'm ready to set a drawing of it, I can say new drawing from design. And then instead of creating a new template, I can go through and say template, browse, find my A size title block, say select. It will gray out all the other customizable information. I can say OK. And then now, when I go to set in my, now you'll see here is the name of my file. Here is my name. I can place my base view, and I can go about creating my drawing. So that's how to go through and create a custom title block for your school and to use within your classroom.